it's going to be intriguing to see. It could be a really long, kind of uncomfortable night for Shedeur on the draft because I don't think he's going to go in the top 3 picks.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Wisdom Wednesday presented, of course, as always, by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Hard to believe tomorrow already will be our last show of the week. Make sure you check out today's Fantasy Feast podcast. We've got Fran Duffy joining John Daigle and myself to go over all of the fantasy relevant skill position players that are rookies. That is going to be awesome. Highly encourage you to check that out. Even Money Podcast yesterday, we went over the AFC season win totals, which people will be very interested in to see what Steve and I are saying from a betting perspective. And then, of course, you can always just spread the word via social media at Ross Tucker NFL, at Ross Tucker Pod, or check out the College Draft Podcast. Emory was awesome talking linebackers. Speaking of awesome, how about Todd McShay? Love getting Todd McShay on the show. Been doing this for a long, long time. Wanted to get his expert opinion on a lot of these different guys. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
Getting closer and closer to the NFL draft. Want to bring on one of the best in the business, a guy I have long admired, and maybe part of it is because he's a fellow 1AA guy like me. Although, interestingly, I don't know if I ever told you about this, Todd. I'm talking about Todd McShay, of course. Check out the Ringer pod he's got going, The McShay Show. Follow him on social media at McShay13. Does a terrific job. Of course, most of you are very familiar with his work. It's funny, Todd, I started a business called Go Big Recruiting, okay? Where high school athletes can send their video and information to colleges online and no one gets checked out, blah, 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 right? I started this when I was still playing in the league in 06 and 07. A reason why I started it, I got offered by every Ivy League school, but I never heard from Brown, which is just impossible, right? Like if Princeton, Harvard, and Yale want you, I promise you Brown wants you. And then I got full rides to William & Mary and Delaware, but I never heard from Richmond. So this is mid 90s, right? Mid to late 90s. So these were VHS tapes. So
I remember.
To this day, I'm convinced my VHS tape to your Richmond Spiders got lost because they would have at least called me or invited me on a visit, even if they didn't want to give me a full ride, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we've come a long way in the recruiting, man. And apparently you've had your hand in that, but it's pretty remarkable how things have changed. Like when I started in this business, we were watching beta tapes and having to have teams like send these huge beta tapes. And then, and then we got to DVDs, and that was like a big deal. And now I just like press 5 buttons and I can watch every player from every level and cut ups and all that stuff. So it's pretty amazing to see just in our lifetimes, like how different from high school to college to the NFL, like how different the whole process is.
The craziest thing to me, Todd, is that when I talk to one of my college coaches that I know and I tell them about a kid going in the portal or who might go in the portal, they can just go and click a cut up of him already.
Like while you're on the phone with them. Like while you're on the phone with them.
It's unbelievable.
You know what I mean? It's crazy. It used to be like, all right, I'll get in. So I injured my back I think it was my junior year, and wound up doing like undergraduate coaching, right? And basically it was a nice title to keep some money towards tuition. And I was just a runner. I was whatever they needed, a gopher,
Yeah.
And so part of, I would sit there on Saturday nights,
What
Sundays.
year is this, Todd?
I was there from 95 to 99.
Okay.
So I would sit there on Saturday nights with a couple other guys. We would literally like have these cards for each play, like play 1. Offense, like circle, like we had a left tackle or at a tight end to the left, so the left side, strong side, and have to go through. So then we would get done with the cut-ups for each play and have to write in each play. And then Sunday morning, I'd wake up early And my job was to meet a guy from JMU or William and Mary. I think it was I-64, like Mount Zion or something, Zion something, and have to bring tapes over so that they could bring them back, and then they would run dubs of those. Like, the fact that you can get it in 3 minutes now is just, it's incredible.
You know, I got a real quick story, okay? It would have been, I guess, your senior year, 98.
Yep.
I think Richmond played and lost to Lehigh in the playoffs.
Yes, in the playoffs, yep.
Okay, so that was my sophomore year, and I had started against Lehigh, and we should have won, but we blew it. So I have Kyle Brandt, who's my teammate and roommate at Princeton. He comes back to Reading, Pennsylvania with me for Thanksgiving break. So we're watching, and I'm with my best friend from high school, who ended up being the best man at my wedding, who was on full ride at JMU. So the three of us are watching Lehigh Richmond on TV Thanksgiving weekend.
Yep.
He thinks we're a weirdo because, you know, we were not like Lehigh and Ivy League non-scholarship. You guys are scholarship, right? So
Right.
we felt inferior. So Kyle and I, who weirdly both have jobs now in NFL media, we're like rooting hard for Lehigh.
Yeah,
and my
of
buddy
course.
that went to JMU is like, you guys are weirdos that you care about this that much.
Yeah.
But it was like
Whatever.
they represented us, you know?
Yeah, of course. They get money, we don't. Of course we're going to pull for the ones that don't. Yeah.
All right, so Todd, let's get into it because you do such a great job and you have for so long. Such a fun job, by the way. I guess I really haven't been asking many guys about the class overall. You know, like I'm going to get into some of the more hot button players and topics with you, but you know, just kind of overall, talk to me about the first round, but even second and third, and where there's value and where teams are going to take guys in the next two rounds.
Yeah, I mean, for starters, it may be the most talented running back class from top to bottom we've ever seen. And you start with Ashton Ginty, who everyone knows about, could go 6 to the Raiders, could go 10 to the Bears. Omarion Hampton's another first rounder. Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins are in that late first, probably in like that 32 to 45 range. And I think it was 2017 with Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, that group. They had 30 backs drafted in that class. This is going to have about the same, but I think a lot earlier guys will come off the board. Then you go to defensive line. I did a study in the last 3 decades. 26 edge and interior guys is the most we've ever had in a draft in the last 30 years. This year, if I'm off by 8 players, we'll still have more than that because I've got 35 guys in the interior and the edge class that could go in the first 3 rounds. So,
wow.
I know it's and premium, obviously not running back, but interior defensive linemen and edge rushers, guys that can get after the quarterback. These are premium positions. So I kind of laugh when it's not sexy for TV and people talk about this isn't a great draft. And yeah, there's only like 6 guys at the top that you feel great about, and there's a drop off. But at certain positions and in terms of the depth of this group, it's really good. I also think there's going to be some runs, and I'm looking down the sheet because I did this the other day. I've got 8 edge guys and interior defensive linemen from 13 to 30. So while you're going to have Abdul Carter come off the board, either 2 or 3 to Cleveland or the Giants, respectively. And you're going to have Jalen Walker from Georgia come off the board in the top 10. I think most likely would be Carolina sitting in there at 8, but could go a little earlier. After that, there's going to be like a little bit, some other positions, and then you get to like the middle of the first round, and we're talking about Shamar Stewart, who had an unbelievable combine and has a lot of potential. Mike Green from Marshall, James Pierce from Tennessee, Mykel Williams, the other Georgia edge rushers, and then you'll start to see the interior guys like Derek Harmon from Oregon, Walter Nolan from Ole Miss, Kenneth Grant, the other Michigan defensive tackle, after Mason Graham comes off the board, potentially at number 5, let's say, to Jacksonville. So that's kind of where that run's going to go. I think you'll only see 2, maybe max 3 wide receivers in the first round, but then you get into the second round, and you're going to see a lot of those guys start to come off the board as well. So it'll be interesting to see the position runs and where they happen.
It is fascinating to me how much it changes from year to year, because I thought we had gotten to the point where with 7-on-7s and so many kids choosing to play receiver that we were just going to have a great receiver class every year. but or at least at the top, right, where there's a bunch of first round picks, does not sound like, as you just said, that's the case this year. And I think you probably know, Todd, maybe you don't, but I do the Eagles preseason games on TV, and wow, I mean, of all years for it to be that deep at D end and D tackle, it's like you get because they just lose Milton Williams, right? They lose Josh Sweat, like they lose all these guys,
and Howie will just pluck a couple more, and here we go.
Right, like they're like, I think Howie probably already knew, like, all right, we'll get a couple more because they have some guys that people don't know much about, like Moro Ajama from Texas. He played well towards the end of last year. I mean, he'll be maybe my breakout guy. And then the other guy, Todd, I don't remember, how much you talked about him last year. This Jalix Hunt kid can play. A former safety at Cornell. I can assure you, no safeties at Cornell ever looked like that guy. Then he transfers to Houston Baptist. Who transfers? Whose parents let them transfer from Cornell to Houston Baptist? And now he's a third round pick.
It's not a good business decision unless it works out exactly like this, right? No, it's pretty. I did a study. You'll appreciate this. I was trying to go back and just look like what are some trends that maybe I'm missing out on. We all know the great organizations, right? And there's kind of like this top tier of organizations that every year if they don't make the playoffs, they barely didn't, but they're regrouping for next year, almost always in the playoffs and make it, like the Eagles are obviously one of them. The Chiefs are another one. The Bills have been recently. The Green Bay Packers always seem to be relevant. So I went through and kind of looked back. And what was the Detroit Lions was another one with Brad Holmes. What was the process? How did they make this all work, and how do they stay relevant? And it was interesting because all these organizations, until they got their quarterback, it was a lot about like the offensive line and kind of getting some staples in there. Detroit's a prime example. So that when we get the quarterback, and it's almost always in the draft, but you go back and study like from the draft, from the year after Mahomes was drafted, the year after Josh Allen was drafted, the year after Hurts was clearly the guy. All of these guys across, and the Packers have always kind of done it, and the Ravens have always kind of done it, but especially like when they identify, oh, we got our guy. Because I guess the Packers have always done it because they've always had a guy, right? But the year after, and for the next 3-4 years during that run, the percentage of picks that they use early in the draft on defensive players is staggering. I'm talking like every one of them, like 4 of their top 6 defensive side, 3 of the top 4 defensive side. The Chiefs one year went from like 4 out of 5, and then the next year was like all 6 of their picks defensive side. And it got me thinking, it's not like brain surgery, but if you got one guy that can make up for all the sins, if you will, on the 10 other guys on offense, let's make sure we're awesome on defense and we build this thing because he's going to make us better on that side. Then we go pluck a free agent here. We bring in a guy there and make it work. But it's fascinating to me. So for the teams that have their guy at quarterback this year, and I just listed off some of the names of the 35 that could go in the first 3 rounds, and we're all looking at position of needs and where are these guys going to pick? Well, they could really use a wide receiver and all that. Well, Howie's needed a wide receiver. Howie's needed this, that, the other thing. But he's always taken a defensive lineman up front. Closers is what he calls it. Same thing when I talked to Bill Polian for years, going back to like Dwight Freeney and those guys. If you got the quarterback and you're going to score points, you better have closers, the pass rushers on the defensive side, and you better be great on that side of the ball. So it's just something I've been keeping an eye on, and I'm intrigued to see this year, especially with so much talent on that side of the ball.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. All right, so last Friday, we had Colorado's Pro Day, got a lot of attention. I've never seen, I don't even know if the Giants' private plane was big enough to take everybody that they sent out to that event.
It's a good day to break into their offices, right?
All right, but I am curious. I actually did Colorado State for CBS last year, so I got a chance to study them pretty closely. I'm curious, first of all, Todd, I know everybody gets asked this, but I want your opinion. Travis Hunter at the next level? Because I guess I have heard some people saying right now, he's a receiver, he's a corner. We think he's going to be a full-time receiver. We've never seen a guy like this that I can remember.
He is the best wide receiver in the class, and he is the best cornerback in the class, okay? But what makes him one of the top 2 players and what gives him that grade is the potential to get impact plays on both sides of the ball, right? And I think anyone who's been in and around the game and has been to meetings and understands like how the week works in terms of game preparation and all those sorts of things, you kind of see a clear vision. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but you see a clearer vision of being the cornerback meetings. We've got to be able to communicate what's our scheme, what are we going to counter with, what are we looking to do this week, and then we can always do installs. And you don't maybe need as much time in practice at the wide receiver spot. And so it's kind of the perception you get around the league. Now, my pushback on it, and it's not even pushback, but my curiosity is, I think he's ready at a higher level right now to impact the offensive side of the ball. And I also think when you look at these teams that we're talking about, whether it's the Browns at 2, the Giants at 3, the Patriots at 4, certainly the Patriots at 4, if he gets to 4, for those teams specifically, wouldn't it be more advantageous to really get the most out of him at wide receiver? But then how does he moonlight, right? And that's kind of the tricky part, because you can't, or can you just put in like red zone packages in certain situations? So it's going to be fascinating. And then the load management aspect of it. But I think you know it as well as anybody. Like the college game is faster. The pace is faster. The commercials,
a lot more plays.
The commercials aren't as long. A lot more plays. The play clock, the tempo. So when I go watch an NFL game, it's like 50-ish plays per side of the ball. I'm watching some of these on my device right here. I'm watching some of the. It's like 96 plays. You know what I mean? And it's faster. So like, I think he can play a lot of like a high percentage on both sides of the ball, but how do they manage it? And he's had the shoulder nicked up. He's a slender frame. How much of a beating can he take on the defensive side and still be effective on offense? It's going to be fascinating to watch. We've never seen it. Like you can say Charles Woodson. You can even say his Coach Prime. No one's ever successfully executed what he's about to try to do. And so for that part alone, I'm just fascinated.
Two things that are fantastic there. Number one, I think you're right. I think you got to be in most, if not all, of the defensive meetings. I think you could really be in a bad spot if you put him out there on defense without him. Receiver, I think you could tell him what route to run a little bit more, and he could do that. But yeah, one of the worst parts of my week, Todd, is if I'm doing a college game that week and I pull up the tape and it's like 92 plays. I'm like,
right.
Oh,
I know.
That's just a lot more work for me.
Yeah.
What about his teammate, Shedeur Sanders, Todd? He's kind of been all over the place with how people feel about him, really kind of on and off the field.
I like the guy off the field. I like the guy, the way he carries himself. I think he's ready for all this. I truly do. I don't worry about any of that other stuff. I also think, like, unfortunately, or just it's the nature of the business. Not even unfortunately. It's the nature of the business is he's Coach Prime's son. They're on every commercial every Saturday. They're everywhere in the media, and so everyone's intrigued. I don't think if his name was different, I don't think we'd have this much attention on him, because you know what he is at the end of the day? He's a really good football player who does not have an elite physical trait. One scout joked around about it and said he got his mom's speed. He doesn't have this rifle for an arm. He's not the biggest guy. But what he does have, and it translates really well to the NFL, is I think he's the fastest processor of these quarterbacks as a passer. I think he is the most, he's the best natural passer in terms of in the pocket, when in rhythm, layering the football, touch, anticipation, throwing receivers open, all the things that you look for in an NFL quarterback. So ultimately, he's kind of a little bit of a throwback pocket passing quarterback who's got a little magic in him to extend, but he's not going to be able to do it very much. And those guys typically we talk about in like the later first, early second range. And a lot of people I talk to in the league, that's the grade they have on him. But he's a quarterback, so he's getting pushed up, and then we've got all the media attention on it, so it's this huge discussion every day. But ultimately, I think there's a way for him to succeed and play really well and win a lot of games in the NFL, but I'd like to see him in the right system. And it's not necessarily time to develop him. He's played a lot of ball, and he's as ready as any of these guys. But like, I don't think I'm almost certain he's not going to be the pick at 2. But Kevin Stefanski would be the perfect guy to develop it. You know, you look at the quarterbacks he's won with, guys without elite arms, elite mobility, smart, fast processors, accurate throwers of the football. That would be the perfect place for him to go. Stefanski won a lot of games with like 11 games with Cousins and some other guys that weren't, you know, the most talented guys. So it's going to be intriguing to see. It could be a really long, kind of uncomfortable night for Shedeur on the draft, because I don't think he's going to go in the top 3 picks. But there could be a team that comes in and wants him and rescues him. But I think 9 is about where people are starting to speculate to the New Orleans Saints that could be the first spot of a team that's not trading up to get him, where he could come off the board.
Check him out on social media. As you can tell, nobody knows it better than this guy. He's been all over it for years and years at this point. At McShay13 is his social handle. You can also check out the McShay Show, part of Ringer. He's got an awesome show.
It took me like 20 years, man. I took the long and wrong route. I tried to do like the big media stuff. Like, this is the way to go. You had it right from the jump. You were like one of the first ones to do this. And how amazing is this gig?
You know what's funny about that, Todd? I don't know if you know this, but I retired. I was friends with Peter King. I wrote for Sports Illustrated. ESPN hired me to write for them, more money, whatever.
Yep.
They said, will you host our Football Today pod, like our podcast? I said, sure, I would love to. 2009, literally had no idea what a podcast was. I just knew they were going to pay me money to talk about football. Yeah. So I did the ESPN Football Today podcast for 3 years, and then started talking to the advertisers. And I thought, oh, you know what? Interesting. I'm going to start my own. I'm going to go out on my own. And it's been one of the best decisions in my life.
There's that Ivy League, man. There's that Ivy League.
Thank you, Todd. Really appreciate it, man.
All right, bud. I'll talk to you soon.
It's a tradition unlike any other. Me going on the Game Time app to see what the best local concerts, comedians, and of course, sporting events are. Speaking of that, obviously we got the Masters coming up this weekend. Holy cow. I mean, it is expensive. Even just the practice rounds are expensive. And then let alone, you know, the actual days where they have the tournament, Thursday through Sunday. Just know with the Game Time app, last minute deals. That's the key. You save up to 60% when you buy last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. Just throw it in. You get the app and just throw your city in and see what's there. You'd be amazed what events are in your area. You don't even know it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ROSS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code ROSS for $20 off. Download Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So I forget like what the most well-known drink is at the Masters. I do know this. If it has Smirnoff vodka in it, it'd be delicious. And Smirnoff vodka isn't going to cost you a fortune, which, by the way, is one of the things the Masters is known for, right? Like it doesn't cost you a fortune for the food and the drinks there. Huge fan of Smirnoff because they've been sponsoring our show for a while. They're the official vodka of the NFL. And they're my number one draft pick, with the draft being a couple weeks away. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please do not share with anyone under legal drinking age. I'm telling you, Smirnoff should be your number one draft pick when it comes to vodka.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, Ross. Colts right tackle Braden Smith revealed the reason why he was placed on the NFI list to end this past season.
Really fascinating story from the Indianapolis Star. Important enough to me, Jack, that I'm going to make it my Labatt Take of the Week, brought to you by Labatt. With Labatt, you can buy beer and get gear. Go to their website, snap a photo of your receipt, upload it to gain points towards exclusive merch. Any size, any product, anywhere you're buying Labatt. Sign up at rewards.labattusa.com. Mental health issues, mental health concerns are very, very real for NFL players. I'm actually surprised that situations like Braden Smith's don't come up more often. I don't love the fact that he gets put on the NFI list, non-football injury. Kudos to the Colts for continuing to pay him at the end of last season as he suffered from severe OCD. Thankfully, we've made major strides with mental health. I know a bunch of teams that have team psychologists to help players with these situations. Man, I wish that they had a better understanding of mental health when I was a player. I think it's a huge, huge part of the game and a very valuable resource for the teams that have team psychologists to help players. Listen, you're working every other muscle that you have in your body. You might as well be working your brain as well.
The Jaguars, they picked up the fifth-year option for their former number 1 overall pick, Trayvon Walker.
It's so interesting, Jack, because he's kind of gotten overshadowed by Aiden Hutchinson, and they probably should have drafted Aiden Hutchinson with the number 1 overall pick, and it's probably part of the reason why Trent Baalke got fired. But, quietly, Trayvon Walker has done some really positive things the last couple years. I don't know that it's enough for the Jaguars to be ready to give him a huge, crazy $40 million deal right now, but it certainly was enough for them to feel comfortable picking up that fifth-year option.
And the Panthers, they signed Coastal Carolina basketball player Colin Granger, but he's never played football before. What are your thoughts?
Well, he's 6'9", he's a big dude, he's a banger, he's a rebounder. I always want to be there for the first day. I just want to see the first time the guy puts the helmet and shoulder pads on, the first time he actually has to take people on. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it definitely does not. But I think it's probably worth a shot in a lot of these instances. Terrific job from McShay. Very fired up, by the way, for tomorrow's show. I think we're done here. Love Labatt. Love getting free stuff. They've combined two of my favorite things. It's called Buy Beer, Get Gear. Such a smart promotion, right? Just listen, you're buying Labatt Blue Light anyway, or at least you should be, okay? When you do it, just snap a quick photo of your receipt, upload it to rewards.labattusa.com immediately, and then check out some of the gear they have. I have a decent amount of it. It is awesome. Rewards.labattusa.com.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network on Samsung TV Plus, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. You guys know I think it's by far the best gift you can give a loved one, especially a parent or a grandparent. myfrontpagestory.com, backofficescheduler.com, humanheadnyc.com, Sporticulture, Pizza Boy Brewing.